Okay, hello everyone. This is Clark Towson, the CEO of INTJ Billing. This video today, it's a bit of an off-the-cuff video. It's the result of all my research that I've been doing over the past 6 months. I haven't prepared an actual video script for this, so I'm just going to go through a number of PowerPoint slides and I'm going to do my best to explain everything. This is research that I've been doing at 7 Cullen Court, Spotswood, which is my family home since 1993. So, as I say, I'm Clark Towson, CEO of INTJ Billing. My background, I have a Bachelor of Computer and Mathematical Science from Victoria University, and I'm a former high-performance computing specialist at DSD Group in Fisherman's Bend, retired. I worked in CFD support, and for those of you who don't know, CFD is computational fluid dynamics. All right, let's get down to this presentation. This is a definition plan of 7 Cullen Court, Spotswood. This is from my dear neighbour, the Department of Transport, who is, they own the road reserve that is directly adjacent to 7 Cullen Court. So, as you can see, this is job ID DP 7081, Department of Transport and Planning. This is 7 Cullen Court, so we've got the main property here, and we've got the block at the front. So the main property is approximately 800 square metres, and the block at the front is about 102 square metres. The blue polygon that you see here is the SBO. And as you can see, the SBO, and for those of you who don't know, an SBO is a special building overlay. And a special building overlay is placed over properties which are prone to flooding from storms. So the Department of Transport and Planning, all properties in Victoria that are at risk of flooding will have an SBO. And there's other flood-related overlays as well, but 7 Cullen Court has got this SBO. Now, for 6 months, I've been looking very closely into this, and here we go. So, I recently engaged CRA Survey Pty Ltd. They're a group of land surveyors, and to say that I'm pleased with the work that they did for me would be an understatement. I am blown away. CRA Survey did a fantastic job on this title re-establishment survey for 7 Cullen Court, and I'm blown away by it. I'm extremely pleased, and if any of you are thinking of engaging CRA Survey, go for it. They do fantastic work. So you can see plan of re-establishment survey. Here's 7 Cullen Court, the main block, and here is the block at front. So 789 square metres for the main block, 102 square metres for the smaller block. Now the smaller block is where I've built a trailer yard. So I've got 3 trailers on there, and I'm renting the trailers out. There's a bit of history to that. Reason why is because the Department of Transport, my dear neighbour, zoned the property TRZ2, so the front block here has got a transport zoning. That's incorrect, and I'm working with the Minister for Roads, that's Melissa Horn. She has assigned a delegate to rezone that property. So that's in process now, or in progress now. Okay. Now this survey, you might notice something important. Open concrete spoon drain. Okay, this has never been shown in a survey before, and it's really important because in the Department of Transport's road reserve, you can see where it's how it's highlighted in orange. That means it's off tidal. So the Department of Transport, my dear neighbour, is the party that owns the concrete spoon drain. Now this spoon drain, it as you can see here, it flows into a pit that's on the TRZ2 zone front block and a little bit over the main house block as well. And this spoon drain is really important because it captures flow, overland flow from the road reserve. So the road reserves up in this section here. When water flows down the reserve, it's captured in this spoon drain and then goes into this pit here. There's a whole lot of history behind the road reserve and some work, so I had to go in there and I had to clear out all their weeds, but I'm not going to go too far into that in this video. That's not the purpose of this video. Suffice to say that my dear neighbour didn't do their work very well and didn't clear their land and didn't look after their weeds, so I had to look after those weeds for them. So, all right, we've got the pit here, and this is a really important drainage asset. It's a former municipal grade drainage asset. It's got a 330 millimeter pipe, and that drains under the ground and through to what's known as Schutts Estate. Schutts Estate is a drainage system here in Spotswood, a very important one. So here's our survey, right? This is the legal point of discharge. So I engaged Hobsons Bay City Council and spoke to an engineer there. The engineer provided me with the legal point of discharge. You see this arrow that's pointing down here. The legal point of discharge is right here, just where this the top of this line is. And what that's showing is the legal point of discharge, and it's outside the garage. It flows into, or it flows down into the municipal drainage system and then onto Schutts Estate. Okay, so you can see it goes to the right. Okay, this is a very important image. This is a composite image that I created using the fantastic survey by CRA Survey. So this is CRA Survey's cadastral survey. And what I've done is I've overlaid that with the Hobsons Bay legal point of discharge, which you can see here. Okay. And I've also overlaid it with, you see this this purple line. So this is from a flood certificate the Melbourne Water supplied to me recently. Okay, so I've overlaid it with those things. Now, highlighted in yellow, this is the drainage pit on the front block. This is the legal point of discharge, and you can see the concrete spoon drain up here. So water flows down over the road reserve. Any overland flow flows directly into the concrete spoon drain and then flows into this pit here, and then onto Schutts Estate. So where the legal point of discharge here is, just outside the garage, any rainfall that does make its way to the legal point of discharge is then safely carried away to Schutts Estate main drain. Okay, here we have Cullen Court. As you can see, it's a bowl. This is really important, okay, for what I'm about to discuss. Okay, so here's that image, that composite image again. And as you can see here, here is the drainage pit on the TRZ2 zone block. That's this drainage pit here. Okay, so you can see municipal grade. Here's the spoon drain, which is located here on the cadastral survey. So the spoon drain is here, and here is the main drain. Here you can see I've lifted the pit, and lifting the pit you can see down into that drain. Here's a schematic of the drain. Most important part about the drain is this 330 millimeter pipe here and this one here. So what that's saying, so this pit to the left of 7 Cullen Court, or just behind 7 Cullen Court, is number 12 Lefevre Street. So water flows down this drainage easement. You see these dotted lines here? This is an underground pipe where the water flows into this this pit here, which is this pit here. So 12 Lefevre Street is behind 7 Cullen Court. Now, this is interesting because it shows that 7 Cullen Court and 12 Lefevre Street are hydraulically linked via this easement. Okay, 330 millimeter pipes. These are municipal grade pipes. A standard residential pipe would be between 90 to usually 100 millimeters. Okay, so you can see it's a very high quality drainage asset. here's the legal point of discharge that is just outside the garage. So with this graphic, I've identified both the legal point of discharge, all right, on the map as well as a photo, and the drainage asset on the TRZ 2 zone block with the schematic and the photos. Okay. Now down here we've got a Google Earth view, and what I've done with this view is I've placed red dots where each of the municipal drainage assets are, as well as the legal point of discharge and the drain on the TRZ 2 zone block, as well as the spoon drain. Okay. All right, so this is an important image. This is proof that all flood behaviour occurs outside the tidal boundary of 7 Cullen Court, and that the SBO over 7 Cullen Court is not hydraulically valid. Cullen Court is a hydrological, or it's an optical illusion, right? So here's our CRA survey of 7 Cullen Court, and the image you see is a Google Earth top-down image. So you can see that I've used the opacity factor so that you can see both the survey as well as the Google Earth view. Now, very importantly, right, what you can see for the first time and what the authorities couldn't see before, okay, this is my insight, is that the survey shows legally that here's the boundary to the property, okay, to the front property. Here's the boundary to the TRZ 2 zoned front block. And this green strip here is Council Nature Strip. This part here is the front driveway, and this part here is also the Council Nature Strip. Okay, so you can see here's the Cullen Court bowl, okay, and where Cullen Court comes down into the cul-de-sac around and the bowl. Okay, now the blue marks here indicate where there is ponding after major storms. As you can see from this image, the ponding is located on the road. Okay, it's not located on any of 7 Cullen Court's private property. This is a very important distinction that the authorities didn't pick up on when the SBO was placed over 7 Cullen Court. So, water never crosses the green verge into 7 Cullen Court's tidal. Okay, so here's the green verge here, the Council Nature Strip. After a major storm, we get ponding here and here, but the ponding can't run uphill and onto the TRZ 2 zone block. This block is located higher than the road bowl, you see. The other thing that you'll notice with this is the driveway invert is higher than the road bowl. So this strip here is an invert, which is 30 millimeters high. So that's the driveway is 30 millimeters higher than the road. And the direction of the driveway fall is to the road by 1 degree, okay? So there's enough fall that water falls, any rain that comes down onto the driveway falls down to the road and then is carried safely through into the municipal drainage pit, which is located just here, right? So the driveway acts as a barrier, and the house is not hydraulically connected to the cul-de-sac low bowl. Okay? So the cul-de-sac low point, the primary ponding basin, that's these blue polygons here. This is where water accumulates after storms. Importantly, the tidal is elevated above ponding. Okay, so the property does not, the private property does not experience flood ingress, and neither does the front council verge here. This part of the council verge does have some ponding ingress, a little bit over the lip of the driveway here and here. This nature strip also doesn't have any ponding. Okay, right. So the most important takeaway from this image is that the water ponding areas are entirely outside 7 Cullen Court's tidal boundaries. Okay, and this is the direct opposite of the SBO polygon shown in the Department of Transport's definition plan, which incorrectly paints 7 Cullen Court as flood impacted. So, in other words, the SBO for 7 Cullen Court does not match the real flood behaviour. And this graphic that I've created exposes what I call the 7 Cullen Court optical illusion, or the Cullen Court optical illusion, right? So it's an easy mistake to make by the Department of Transport and Planning and by Melbourne Water and Council, but it's one that I've exposed with this graphic. So the true flood behaviour is the small shallow depressions on the road, indicated in blue, which is localised nuisance ponding, entirely outside the property boundary. It's confined to the road and a small section, very small section of the driveway, which is not on title. But the CRA survey does something critical. It isolates the actual title boundary, okay, from the surrounding council land. Right? Now, hydrologists call this visual overland flow misclassification. So in other words, the driveway apron, which is this section here, is not equal to private property. The nature strip here and here is not private property. And the bowl here, the road bowl here, doesn't equal house flooding. Okay. Many professionals assume that the curb is the property boundary, but in 7 Cullen Court's case, it's not. So this is the true validation overlay, and it shows that the ponding occurs entirely on council land, and that the house, the main property in the TRZ2 zone block, is higher and not connected. Right? So my evidence is consistent with the presence of roadway located flood storage depression and inconsistent with any flood hazard affecting the private allotment. Okay, very important graphic. All right, this is some work I did yesterday at the front of the property. As you can see here, this is the driveway lip. Okay, it's a 30 millimeter high driveway lip. Some areas are a little bit higher than 30 millimeters, some are a little bit lower. Okay, so I measured it yesterday. This lip, it acts as a defined, or what's known as a defined hydraulic control, or a defined hydraulic control crest. So it separates the property from the roadway. So for overland flow to reach the dwelling, or i.e. to reach 7 Cullen Court, okay, it's very interesting. What would actually have to happen is that cul-de-sac waters, i.e. The road, waters that are hitting, or water that's hitting the road, would first need to exceed the driveway crest elevation by over 30 mil. So here's our measurement here of the driveway lip. Okay, so the waters would have to overcome that lip, and then overcome the driveway's measured fall towards the road. Right, that's very important because the fall of the driveway, we've got a 1 degree fall, okay, towards the driveway. Right, and it would need to do that despite upstream capture provided by the road reserve spoon drain. Okay, that's in the Department of Transport's road zone, and the 330 millimeter easement pipe. Okay, as well as we've got the legal point of discharge here. So Melbourne Water, when they do a revised TUFLOW model, should show no scenario in which these conditions are met. Right, and my suspicion is that the existence of the driveway crest was not reflected in the legacy SBO model, which contributed to the incorrect hazard mapping of 7 Cullen Court. All right, modelled flooding versus physical reality. Why inundation at 7 Cullen Court is impossible. So what you see up here on the left, this is a flood map from a company called Engeny. This flood map was created for 50 The Avenue, which is this property here. I got wind of these maps when I checked out Hobsons Bay Council's Green Light portal when I was looking at development applications for my neighbour. Okay. Now, firstly, I'd like to state just before we begin analysing this map is that I don't have any connection with Engeny. They're not someone, I'm not a client of Engeny. Engeny is aware of some of my work, but I don't want this to read as a criticism of Engeny, okay? I don't want people to look at it and say, oh, look, Engeny is wrong, this is terrible. No, okay? I think I really need to say this from the beginning, that this is not an attack on Engeny, it's not a criticism of Engeny. I think they were working with modelling provided to them by Melbourne Water when they did their TUFLOW run, okay? So, all right, having said that, let's begin with this. Right, so Engeny's model shows a flood depth extending up the driveway incline at 7 Cullen Court, so this section here, okay? And that's contrary to measured ground slope. Remember, the real slope measured is between 0.8 to 1 degree downward to the road. So that's the garage here, where it flows down to the road. And the modelled inundation enters 7 Cullen Court's driveway and TRZ 2 zone front block, both of which sit above the road. Now this flooding is physically impossible given the measured terrain. So you can see here they've shown flooding over the front block and flooding over the driveway here. Okay. So modelled flood depths require water to overtop a 30mm positive driveway crest, and no such mechanism exists at 7 Cullen Court. So Engeny's map omits the driveway crest, right? Remember, here's our crest, the crest break line, and treats the surface as flat, causing ponding, which is not physically possible. Then, of course, we've got the legal point of discharge drain in front of 7 Cullen Court's garage, which is just here. And that seems to have been omitted from the Engeny model. And, of course, missing drainage assets invalidate flow routing. Now, with the hazard band shown across the frontage, this contradicts all of my field verified evidence of flow direction. Right, so I've created videos. I've done a Richard Feynman style ball test showing where the ball goes, which is down the slope of so down the driveway slope and then into the gutter. Okay, all right. And of course, I've measured that as well with an inclinometer. Now, the model assumes water flow climbs between 30 to 40 millimetres uphill onto 7 Cullen Court. Now, obviously, gravity prevents this, you see. It's the lip here. So the measured 30mm driveway lip, physical hydraulic crest prevents any inflow. Right? So to reach the garage area, overland flow, so here's the garage area here. So overland flow, in order for it to reach this section, would need to climb the 30mm crest here, reverse the 0.8 to 1 degree downward slope towards the road, so that's down this way or this way. Okay. Bypass the legal point of discharge drain. Remember, our legal point of discharge is here. And of course, none of these conditions can occur in reality. Now, I did that Richard Feynman style NASA ice water, a yellow ball test where I bounced the ball down the garage slope to demonstrate the gravitational flow direction. And this, of course, contradicts Energy's assumed flow path. So the driveway lip here acts as a break line. And it really should be, well, no, really, it must be modelled correctly in TUFLOW. And its absence explains Engeny's erroneous flood extent. And of course, I've got security camera evidence, extensive evidence over the years from 7 Cullen Court, confirming no observed ponding, okay, on the garage driveway. Only just a little bit over this section here during massive storms, right? During high intensity rain events, right, of course, we don't get any ponding on the garage. And this, of course, contradicts the predicted hazard zone. All right. So the Engeny map fails the fundamental check of hydraulic realism, that water can't flow uphill. The driveway crest is a fixed topographic control, and all modelling must honour verified breaklines, and Engeny's model here doesn't. So the model depths contradict measured micro-topography by between 30 to 50 millimetres. And of course, this is disastrous for the model. Now, my field verified assets, that's the legal point of discharge drain here. Okay, we've got the spoon drain in the Department of Transport's road reserve. We've got the drain on the TRZ 2 zone block. and of course we've got the driveway crest. Okay, those override unmapped TUFLOW assumptions. All right, TUFLOW assumptions created by Engeny at, well, Melbourne Water originally for the SBO, as well as what you see here, or the water flow here. So when calibrated to reality, there's no scenario which supports inundation at 7 Cullen Court. Engeny's model predicts inundation that requires water to climb, remember, climb this 30 millimetre crest, and reverse, all right, this slope here, 1 degree, reverse a 1 degree downslope. A non-physical outcome disproven by survey, video, flow testing, and my direct measurements, right? So, important graphic. All right, next graphic. This is a very important graphic as well. I call this a composite terrain validation overlay. All right, so on the left here, what we've got here is the CRA survey with the Melbourne Water underground drains extent. Okay, overlaid on it. Overlaid as well with the legal point of discharge. Okay, and then overlaid over Engeny's map. Okay, so let's go through this image now. This is, as I said, this is a composite overlay, and it demonstrates a mismatch, a critical mismatch between Engeny's modelled 1% AEP flood extents, okay, so 1 in 100 year storms, and the verified terrain, okay, so verified terrain, the land, okay, what the land looks like, its characteristics, all that sort of stuff. So it's a mismatch between that as well as the drainage assets and the survey data that I gathered at 7 Cullen Court, remember, CRA survey. Survey elevations, legal point of discharge location, the 330 millimetre drainage pipe and the TRZ2 zone block. So the topography all confirm that the areas depicted as inundated in the Engeny depth map are in fact local high points draining towards the road bowl in 7 Cullen Court. Remember, so we've got the TRZ2 zone block up here, which is a high point. We've got the front of 7 Cullen Court, which is an assumed low point, but it's actually not. The actual low point is the Cullen Court bowl. Okay. Right. So the modelled flood cell is therefore non-physical and cannot occur under any realistic hydraulic scenario. Very important. So this overlay as a whole, it demonstrates the modelled flood extent at 7 Cullen Court is hydraulically non-physical. Verified survey levels, drainage assets, local grades show the mapped inundation occupies topographic high points, right? Topographic high points, higher sections of land, right? And would require uphill flow. So where you see the blue here, right? That's uphill flow. Uphill flow, which can't happen, right? It can't happen under any plausible 1% AEP scenarios. Remember, 1 in 100 year storms. So the Engeny flood cell is therefore invalid for planning or for SBO justification, right? So remember, we've got the drain here on the TRZ2 zone front block. That's got the 330 millimetre pipe. It's a municipal grade drainage asset. It seems to have slipped through the cracks. We've got the 7 Cullen Court legal point of discharge here. Source of that is Hudson's Bay City Council. Remember, I had to buy the legal point of discharge document from them. And then, of course, up here we've got water shown flowing through the new Westgate Freeway sound wall. So here's our new sound wall, okay, and we've got water that's showing flowing through it. Now this wall is concrete, right? The old wall was timber. This is a concrete wall, and concrete is impervious to flow, and it's extensive new drainage behind the wall, right? So behind the concrete wall, there are drains, okay? There are drains, brand new drains. So the water shown at depths, which are impossible up here, okay? So you see it's all red here. Remember, red is above 0.5 metres or above half a metre. Okay. Now VIDA, that's the Victorian Infrastructure Delivery Authority, has done a whole lot of work on the Westgate Tunnel. The Westgate Tunnel is just up here. So we've got the freeway embankment around here, and just up a bit further is the new tunnel. And everyone knows, you make a massive hole in the ground and pour water in it. Okay, the water's going to go down the hole. So massive new drainage infrastructure. And I went on they had an open day. I went on the Westgate Tunnel walk. So I walked through the tunnel and I saw all the new infrastructure. The Vida's done an amazing job. I take my hat off to them. They've learnt many lessons from tunnel fires in particular. The Mont Blanc tunnel fire that occurred in France back in 1999. And of course, with all the drainage systems that they've created, the emergency systems for water, that water has to have somewhere to go. So this whole section here is incorrect. So we need a new model for Schutts Estate. Okay. The water shown here is simply impossible, given all the work that Vida's done on the Westgate Tunnel project. Now, I've sent Vida a Freedom of Information request for their as-built drainage schematics. I'm still waiting for them to respond. Here you can see that the flood depth is incorrect. So water is shown at this section here, showing uphill over the TRZ2 zone block. Right? And of course this is impossible. So yeah, overlaying Engeny's depth map with the CRA Survey, Council's legal point of discharge, the drain on the TRZ2 zone block, right? It shows that the modelled flood extent occupying land at 7 Cullen Court, so 7 Cullen Court, which drains away from the property, lies above the adjacent road terrain. So remember, here's our road here. And it contains drainage assets not included in the Engeny model, of course, right? So we've got the TRZ2 zone drain here. We've got the legal point of discharge here, okay? Now, of course, this evidence is a fundamental modelling error, and it invalidates the flood hazard mapping applied to 7 Cullen Court. So the composite overlay reveals the Engeny map assigning flood depths, right? So here's our flood depths over here, okay? To land that is demonstrably higher than the surrounding terrain and hydraulically disconnected from upstream sources by drainage infrastructure. And this, of course, directly contradicts field conditions. All my work out on the field, all the photos I've taken and all the measurements and work I've done on location at 7 Cullen Court in the road reserve, okay, outside 50 the Avenue, outside 637 Melbourne Road, right? And it confirms that this model cannot and should not be used for planning hazards or special building overlay justifications, right? So right here, I mean, take a look here. It's obvious, right? The flood depth of 0.4 to 0.5 metres, right? 0.4, and actually this is above 0.5, so the red section shows above 0.5. 0.4 to 0.5 metres is in orange, okay? So it's actually impossible on 7 Cullen Court's driveway. Water cannot flow uphill from the road, so remember uphill from here, make its way up and over the 30mm driveway crest, all right, the lip on the driveway, and then up a 1 degree slope to make it into the garage. It's not possible. So Engeny's model is producing flows that can't occur. Now remember, my disclaimer about Engeny, okay, their flood mapping is no doubt based upon Melbourne Water's flood maps, okay, which haven't been updated. Right? They need to be updated. They need to take into account new boundary conditions. A little bit on that shortly. So yeah, that's the composite terrain validation overlay. All right, observed drainage and boundary conditions, 7 Cullen Court and surrounds. Evidence not reflected in current modelling. Right, so let's go through this one here, right? So, current modelling. I do not think the modelling took into account the 7 Cullen Court legal point of discharge. I do not think it took into account the drain on the TRZ2 zone block, nor did it take into account the spoon drain, which I went to great effort to clear, okay? And it definitely didn't take, with 100% confidence, didn't take into account the new concrete noise wall, okay? So here's our new Westgate freeway noise barrier. And you can see here the land on that falls down towards the barrier, right? Here's our drains on the opposite side of the noise wall, okay? So you can see that this whole section in here is a fiction, right? So we need a new flood model for Schutts Estate. Schutts Estate main drain runs through this way, right? So there's a massive pipe directly under 641 Melbourne Road and 637 Melbourne Road, okay? So the other important thing to notice is we've actually got three properties that are hydraulically linked. We've got 7 Cullen Court, we've got 12 Lefevre Street behind it, and we've got the Department of Transport's road reserve. So the hydraulic linkage is included with, or happens because we've got the easement pipe which runs under both properties, and we've got the spoon drain, you see. Very important. Or very important to notice, to note this. All right, let's go through some TUFLOW boundary conditions. All right, so this is my TUFLOW model update input register. I'm calling it my update input register. It's a hydrological evidence and geometry corrections for 7 Cullen Court's SBO. Right, this is for review by Melbourne Water, and that's the other thing. I've passed on all my research to Melbourne Water as well as to Hobsons Bay Council engineers. So I counted 20 boundary conditions. Okay, 20 boundary conditions that were not taken into account with the original flood models. Right, just that they weren't taken into account. Now I'm not going to go through this whole list now. All right, you can look through this. You can pause the screen. You can look at this. Right, but suffice to say, these are very, very serious issues. And for the new model that Melbourne Water creates, these boundary conditions will have to be included. Otherwise, the model will be incorrect. Okay. On the left here, this is the land title to 12 Lefevre Street. Okay. Here's 12 Lefevre Street here. Here's 7 Cullen Court here. And here's number 10 Lefevre Street. So you can see how it's numbered 1, 2, and 3. What that means is that the entire property was once one property, and then it was subdivided. Okay. And then we got 7 Cullen Court, 12 Lefevre Street, and 10 Lefevre Street. E2 represents the easement. That's the dashed line here, right? So here's our drainage easement. On the right, we've got Vic plan images, right? So here's a Vic plan for 7 Cullen Court, Spotswood, and here it is for 12 Lefevre Street. And note, special building overlay over 7 Cullen Court. 12 Lefevre Street, however, has no planning scheme overlays. So 12 Lefevre Street doesn't have the SBO, but 7 Cullen Court does. Both properties, remember, are hydraulically linked via this easement pipe that runs under both. Right? Here's our TRZ2 zone block front drain at the front. 12 Lefevre Street's also got a drain at their front. Okay, both are municipal grade assets. All right, so at the top, my SBO over 7 Cullen Court image. The 7 Cullen Court, or Cullen Court, is a hydrological optical illusion image, right? Which I've been through that image in previous slides. On the bottom, we have the Hobsons Bay planning scheme, the definition plan provided by the Department of Transport. Now, those of you who have got knowledge, skills in hydrology, skills in GIS or QGIS. These are QGIS is a tool that's used by the Department of Transport and Planning for overlays, so for polygons and stuff like that. All this sort of stuff, right? It should be blatantly obvious after everything that I've been through, right, that this SBO polygon doesn't represent reality. Here's reality. Here's my image, the Cullen Court optical illusion, showing that the ponding occurs in the road bowl, okay, cannot make its way uphill onto the council verge, here, and the driveway, which is also council land, this section of the driveway, or over the council verge here. Right? So the ponding is located within the bowl. It doesn't, the water cannot make its way uphill under the TRZ2 zone block, can't make its way uphill onto the driveway, you see. Right? And a legal point of discharge here, TRZ2 zone block drain here. Right? So yeah, that's my presentation. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I've got a lot more research that I haven't discussed in this presentation. There's a whole lot more that I can show. And maybe I will do that in the future. If those of you, and I know this video is different to my usual Bitcoin videos, and I apologize to anyone who came to this video and is expected me to be posting more Bitcoin videos. I do apologize. But this is something that I've been working on for 6 months. It came up after I was doing some gardening on the front block and I noticed the zoning discrepancies. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I've done my best. It's been a whole lot of work over 6 months to put this together. This presentation is the culmination of all my research. I think it should be obvious that Schutts Estate needs to be remodelled. Melbourne Water needs to come up with that new flood model, as well as any firms that they engage, like Engeny or other flood modelling firms, to come up with more accurate flood maps for the Schutts Estate catchment, which obviously includes 7 Cullen Court, as well as my neighbours, and some of my neighbours are developers, right? One's a large developer, one's a smaller boutique developer. So getting the SBO right is extremely important. Extremely important for Spotswood, okay, and extremely important in general. All right, all the best, everyone. I'm Clark Towson, CEO of INTJ Billing.